Thanks very much, Sarah. Another very interesting talk. It's great to get an update on the paleo environmental work from the CHERISH project. So now we're joined by Ewan and Sarah for questions. Just a quick question and answer session. Unfortunately, Andrew Fiduka couldn't join us. So Ewan, I just wanted to put a question to you about resistance and acceptance, because this is obviously one of the big questions that comes into play when discussing cultural heritage at risk. And does HES tend to take an approach of a case-by-case basis, or have you been looking at developing a blanket approach through a matrix?
Yeah, it's an absolutely crucial shift, I think, in our thinking, and of course others as well. And I know the issue of loss is coming up later on in the conference as well, so I'm looking forward to hear what other people are saying too. I mean, from our point of view, one of the essential, the key essential thing is to be assessing risk in a systematic way. Hence the fact we developed our climate change risk assessment as a sort of robust, repeatable process based on the best data. And what that's doing is allowing us to prioritize our attention to where we've got these critical issues, where the existing and previous programs of resistance are under most pressure. And we know that we're going to have to shift the thinking. And the environmental data we're getting is now making it very clear that in some places we're going to have to sort of focus our minds and those of other stakeholders pretty much in the near future. So at Skara Brae, for example, the defences have been there since early 20th century, since the 1930s originally, the hard sea walls. And although they, with continual repair and maintenance and extension, they are protecting the localized site, the surrounding soft coasts are eroding at an accelerating rate. So some of that soft coast is now eroding at about rates of like 40 centimeters a year. Those rates are doubling in every 4 to 5 years. That's what our data is beginning to show us. So in situations like that, we're having to give particular attention to those sites and beginning to have those difficult decisions. What are the options? And I think the key thing is to have those discussions with the best available data on the table and consider a number of different options to take us forward. So we're kind of right at that edge now. And really why I concentrated on our impacts guide was because the intention of that, the purpose of that is really to stimulate discussions amongst people as to some of these uncomfortable truths that we're having to face.
And the works at the Links of Notland is really impressive. And it's great to see that there's been some stabilisation of the site through the vegetation. But I actually have a question now for both Scotland and Wales. So maybe I'll put it to you first, if you don't mind, Ewan. It's basically about submerged paleo landscapes in Scotland and Wales. And are there examples of caves, say, from lower sea levels, and how are they being managed? I suppose the identification of paleo landscapes.
Yeah, that's that's not really my area, so I'll leave that to Sarah. I mean, we do have some issues where we've been involved with communities who've taken on effectively taken on ownership of certain situations like that. There's an area in the east of Scotland, Weems Caves, which where a local community has successfully taken on a sort of guardianship role. And working with others like the Skate Project at University of St Andrews, there's been a great deal of engagement on that topic.
Fantastic. And Sarah?
Yeah, so in terms of the submerged landscapes, as part of CHERISH, there is extensive paleo landscapes around the Welsh coast, as many parts of the British Isles. But I think we're at the stage of trying to understand the extent of them and the detail of what's there still. So I think there's still a lot of research to be done. I think there's certainly a lot of interest in local communities in the intertidal zone, who are regularly going out and observing changes and often reporting back to us. So in the areas that we're working, we've had some really good engagement with those local communities as well. So I think for us, there's a lot to understand still, and sort of bring together the previous research that's been done and try to make those links, add new information to understand how coherent the record is around, and how extensive that evidence is. But the main focus of the work that we've done from the paleoenvironmental perspective so far has been in that on the onshore record, the existing onshore record, and some of that intertidal area.
Thanks, Sarah. And we just have a question here from Anthony Firth, and he's wondering if CHERISH is using a similar matrix to HES for considering climate change impacts. So
our approach in terms of considering climate change impacts is we've been looking at a revised version of the rapid coastal zone assessment procedure that was established in Wales a number of years ago, and has since been refined by SCAPE and such. So we've been trialing that and adding some more information to that, but we're really looking at a sort of site by site basis at the moment. But I think it's a potential to roll that out more widely. I think the Scottish approach so far has been extensive and systematic, and I think that's the sort of the way to take this further from these more site specific investigations.
Yeah, and I just would add to that we really do tend to kind of draw on the work from people like HES whenever we possibly can for the CHERISH project, where it's applicable to the type of work we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so we haven't got many other questions in, so I might just close the session unless either of you want to make any additional comments.
I just like to say I think there was a continuity between the three of us there, particularly about evidence-based decision making, and for us it's very much about equipping ourselves with the best information we can based on sound environmental data, sound survey and recording, using new technologies, so we're in the best position to move forward. And I think that's one really encouraging thing to see, is that decision making is being made using the best evidence we can get hold of.
Absolutely, and it's great to see it across all the different environments as well, whether coastally, underwater.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the breadth of our the range that we've got in the toolkit to be able to tackle these issues and look at them from different perspectives. And one thing that I've learned an awful lot from is working at that interface between different disciplines. We're looking at the same problems but from different perspectives, and learning a lot from each other, both within the project but also more broadly when we've had a lot of discussions with our colleagues in Ireland, in Scotland and in England as well, and learning from our different approaches and combining the best bits of those. I think is that's been really rewarding in trying to sort of think about how we move forward. So learning an awful lot.
Great.
And of course, I think we've benefited from improved technologies. The speed of change, just over the last decade even, has been phenomenal. And also improved environmental data. We're very fortunate in terms of the Met Office data that we've got, which is scalable and improving all the time in terms of its accessibility and usability for non-Met weather specialists. I think that's been a big benefit for us, is we're able to engage with climate experts and climate scientists and utilize that information so much to our benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. Puts everything on such a better footing when you can bring all the different disciplines together. But I'd just like to thank you both for your contribution, and also thank Andrew, who unfortunately couldn't be here with us. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of the conference.